Lyla Sage, meet the people of Wichita. We're so glad to have you. So congrats again on your second book and for achieving national bestseller status. So well deserved.
You guys have to stop saying stuff like that to me. We're gonna get a big ol' head. And this noggin is already massive. My hat measurement's insane.
Well, thank you again for the second book because you gave us another really cute and cozy cowboy romance for us to obsess over. There's a lot to unpack in this book, but let's start with Ada because she's the only main character, at least so far, who is actually kind of an outsider, not a rancher, not from Meadowlark. We got this tatted college dropout interior designer. So what was the inspiration for creating Ada's character?
Yeah, so Ada's a character that means so much to me. I always say that I wrote her for the version of myself that I was 5 years ago, just somebody who is desperately looking for a place to belong, a place to go, who was getting out of a bad situation and was trying to run towards something better. So Ada is a character that I love and adore and am very proud of her and her journey, but the second book was always going to be kind of Wes and Ada, and I thought it would be so fun to see Rebel Blue Ranch and see Meadowlark through an outsider's perspective, right? These things that she picks up on that everyone else is just so used to. This opportunity to come from, mountains in Northern California to big sky country and how it looks different and how, the mountains are so tall they look like they might fall on you, but in the most majestic way. And so Ada is a really special character to me, and I think both her and Wes are just two people who were really looking for a soft place to land, who got really lucky to find that in one another. But I love Ada. I think she gets the most kind of flack out of all of my FMCs. Unfortunately for those people, I'm ready to fight about it. Because I love her so deeply, and I think there are parts of her that are, it's hard in romance novels. You end up inadvertently putting so many pieces of yourself in them, which is very scary when people can decide that they don't like those pieces. And so Ada's, all of them are very vulnerable characters for me, but there was something really jarring about putting Ada out there, but I love her, and I just think she's just the best, and she's never gonna have to lift a finger the rest of her life. Good for her.
Absolutely. And so then we have Weston, who's really stoic on the outside, but as we kind of get his perspective, we see that he's struggling with chronic depression, and that he views himself as kind of the least relevant of the Ryder siblings. So what drove you to write not only his character, but then to pair them? I know you're saying kind of a soft landing space, but when you started going into developing their relationship, how'd you go about that?
There was no version of events, there was no version of events where Ada didn't exist. I'm very lucky in the fact that I think my subconscious was working overtime. She deserves a raise, because Ada and Wes just came and I was like, yep, that's them. So there was no version of this where Ada didn't exist, but there was especially no version of Rebel Blue Ranch where Wes ended up with somebody from Meadowlark. That was really important to me, to bring somebody else in, have somebody else have a chance to kind of find a family and be a part of a family. But for Wes, right, he's a happy guy, and his major depressive disorder was extremely important to me, but it was important to me in the way that I wasn't writing about what it was like to be in the throes of depression. I wanted, because when I'm going through an episode like that, all I want is to be able to see that people make it out the other side. And so I didn't want Wes's character arc or his depression to define him and be something that he had to overcome in order to get his happy ending, right? He deserves love just as he is. And that might mean he's great now and the other shoe drops later, but Ada will obviously be there and love him all the way through it and love him all the way. So the way that I chose to write about it was very intentional. It was very important to me. It's the same way I write about Emmy's ADHD. It's just a part of her. It's nothing, it's not an obstacle, it's not a character arc, it's just a part of their personality, their core, they don't exist and their stories don't exist without it. But that doesn't mean that like it defines them. It's just a small part of this wonderful and dynamic person that Wes is, who wants to take care of people, who loves his family, and who is so much bigger and better than he gives himself credit for, and everybody else can see it, and he doesn't quite see it, but I think, Ada helps him see that he's worth so much more than what he thinks he is.
Right, and what I really love about your development with Weston and kind of highlighting depression is, as you said, you didn't write in the throes of it, but you highlighted the anxiety that comes with wondering when that next moment's going to come. And I think you tackled it in a way that's so beautiful, and that people that maybe have never experienced depression can really like feel for this character who he has these moments, but then there are moments where he's doing great, but he's always wondering when that next time's going to happen, and that's got to cause him anxiety all the time.
And I think like there's a line somewhere where Wes is talking about how he isn't always going to struggle with depression. Sometimes he'll have the opportunity to just live with it. And that's kind of where he is in a headspace when he meets Ada and during the events of Swift and Saddled. And I think that was like a very, not to toot my own horn, but I think that was like a very poignant line that I remember writing, and it was something that I was trying to put words to for a long time for myself, and it came out during Wes, and I am really proud of that.
Yeah, so that brings me to my next question. Writing about these characters, Ada goes through this incredible healing journey, coming from an extremely toxic relationship, and Wes struggling with depression. How healing is it for you to put these words on paper? Do you find it therapeutic to create these characters and see their worlds and lives play out, and then also to see so many other readers like really connect with the character? Because yeah, Ada puts her walls up, she can be abrasive, but there's so many people out there that also are like, I am Ada.
Yes, Ada's got ride or dies, and those ride or dies are aggressive, and I love them. But I think for me, writing in general is healing. I love to do it. That's why I keep doing it, and I do it at a decent pace. I love doing it. I love trying to find the words. I love trying to describe the things that I'm feeling, or describe the things that I think my characters are feeling, and I think I am responsible for knowing them the best. I know there are a couple of you out there who are like, I know. No, I do. I'm responsible for knowing them inside and out, and being able to answer literally any question you could throw about them at me, down to what sort of toothpaste they would use, right? And Wes used to use Crest, but Ada developed sensitive teeth, so now he buys Sensodyne. After he did a bunch of research about it, and was like, what is the best? So it's just a joy to write these characters, but I find my most fervent joy in getting to know them and being able to tell their story in a way that I think does them justice, because they feel super real to me. They feel like these people that I love. They feel like I'm so proud of each of them. This is from Done and Dusted, but I'm so proud of Emmy. I've written Emmy through 4 books now, and watching from that first chapter of Done and Dusted to the last chapter and epilogue of Wild and Wrangled, that is the same girl, but that girl has grown substantially and exponentially. So it's just so important to me to know them well and be able to do justice to what I see for them in my head, and I love doing it. I never, ever, ever want to stop. I love them.
So how do you, because I've wondered this through both books, how do you balance, because they're not huge books, but you give us so many characters that are immediately, you're rooting for every single one right away, and they're all so lovable. And then when you switch to Ada and Wes in the second book, we're still seeing Emmy and Brooke. So how do you balance keeping the story mostly about the same people, but also developing all these other characters that people just, you just love them?
I hope so. I kind of look at it as an ensemble show. So a show that takes place in kind of one room, and the couple is always in the room, but other people come through the door and then leave through the kitchen, that sort of thing. So that kind of helps me balance it, but mostly I get that question a lot, and I don't know if I've ever thought about it that hard. It just kind of comes out of me somehow, which is great. It just kind of happens. I do, once I go back and read, try to be mindful, and if I feel like something needs to be pared down or whatever, I'll do it. But in the first kind of draft, I don't really think about anything that I'm doing. I just like have a goal, and that goal is 80,000 words, and we're gonna get there. And they are small, but my books are bigger than you think they are. We just have tiny formatting. Dial likes to have skinny books, which I like because, you know, you can take them anywhere. And one thing that drives me nuts is Swift and Saddled is like 15,000 words longer than Done and Dusted, but the spine is smaller. Anyway, that's a different conversation. That's a different strongly worded email that I sent that one time. But and the way I write, I don't think there's any sentence in any of my books that doesn't have a purpose. I wanted to be extremely intentional with Rebel Blue, where things are placed, where people come in, where you learn new information. When a cowboy with an A tattoo on his neck shows up at girls' night, right? Like he's on screen for a second, but I need that to be impactful. And I think that comes from laying this entire thing out the best that I could before anything got started or anything happened, because I knew how I wanted to execute this and how every book would have its own building blocks that it was responsible for. We knew that way back when, and it's been so fun to kind of like stick to my guns and execute that in the way that I've always wanted to. It's such a joy.
Yeah, so speaking of these character dynamics and everything being intentional, one thing that I really loved about Swift and Saddled is, you know, you have Ada, who throughout the book, you know, she's trying to put down walls. They're getting broken down a little bit, of course, by Wes. But that girls' night was, one of my favorite scenes in the book. So I loved that you created this community of women, especially in a lot of times in romance authors, or in romance novels, we get women pitted against women. You know, there's jealousy, there's competition. But you built this community of these female characters who lift each other up, support each other, and break each other's walls down. So can you kind of talk about just the dynamics between your women characters?
Speaking of breaking each other's walls down, I think Emmy and Teddy break down walls like wrecking balls. Like, I think they go for it. I think Cam is a little bit more discerning and maybe a little bit more gentle. She chips away at them. But Emmy and Teddy are just like my wrecking ball girls. They're like, and they are kind of very similar to me and my best friend, who are like, if I think that you don't like me or you're a little bit standoffish, I'm going to try, we'll see. We'll see. Because I think I can probably make, like, if you're a hard nut to crack, I'm going to try even harder. And so having positive friendships between women is so important to me in my books, and I am the luckiest girl in the world because I can write friendships like Emmy and Teddy and Ada and Cam because of the friends that I have in my life, and that's something I wanted to do justice to. I always say that Rebel Blue is a love letter to the people and the places that built me, and that includes my friends. And so it's fun to watch the ways that they appear in ways that I don't think about. But it's just important to me. It's important to me to not have like anybody pitted against each other. That's why, you know, Cam and Gus are great co-parents, and there's not going to be any drama between Cam and Teddy, spoiler. They just exist together in a way where each of them can shine at their own point, and where they really do try to like move the spotlight onto Ada when it's her turn. And right, these women are very comfortable stepping back or stepping forward when they need to, and it's a joy to write them. I'm so proud of them, and all of my characters have qualities that I wish that I had that are kind of aspirational, and it's just a joy to like see them through their journey. I love it. I love them. I love my girlies.
We love your girlies too. So you've said in some previous Q&As that the waterfall scene in Done and Dusted was your favorite. What's your favorite scene from Swift and Saddled?
What is my favorite scene? It's been a while since I've read this. Stick shift lessons. That is my favorite. I love that scene. Like the waterfall scene, it's one of the first scenes that I wrote for Swift and Saddled, because I don't write in chronological order because boring. That's way too easy. My edits would be so much easier if I did, but I love that scene because I think it's fun and it's sexy, and like it kind of, the tension builds. But I also think about how safe you have to feel with a person to like operate a 10,000 pound death machine that you don't know how to work. and how comfortable you have to feel failing in front of them. And I also wanted Ada, whilst learning how to drive a stick shift, to not be yelled at by her father like somebody in the room. And so it was healing for me as well. I was like, take that, Dad. Love him so much, but he did make me stop in an intersection because I kept killing the car and made me get out of the car and like go sit in the passenger seat and like ride in home in shame because I just like kept messing up. But lame. And so like I think there are so many layers to that scene, and that scene also ends with my very favorite line, which is about like she tried to not get distracted by the suns, the one in the sky and the one right next to her, because Wes really is such a provider of light and warmth in Ada's life, which I love.
Yeah, and then, I mean, it seems like such a small thing, but for somebody like Ada, who came from a relationship where she wasn't even allowed to have a car because he didn't want her driving herself places, he could always do it, like, how empowering. And I think at some point in the book you also use the phrase, like, she had felt like she was a caged bird, so it's a little easy to get distracted by how, cute Wes is being in that, but also, like, it is this moment of he is teaching her to, helping her be independent, encouraging her to be this empowered character, and I think that was just such a beautiful way to go about it, like a really creative and fun one, but also just a really pretty way to add that empowerment.
That means so much to me. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I think I do write very fun romances, and that's what I want to write. I want to write fun romances that are swoon-worthy and feel like sunshine and big blue skies, but I also like to wrap in these moments that feel intentional for my characters, and that's a really big moment for Ada, right? That is her definitely, like, her walls are down, she's trusting. James Taylor's on the radio, and like, I just like imagine what it feels like to sit in the front of that truck and be driving through what Rebel Blue Ranch looks like to me, and just feeling so free when she hasn't ever felt that before. And so that seems really meaningful, and thanks for picking up on that.
Of course. Well, and then on her empowerment piece too, she gets the phone call, right, from her ex-husband after all this time not hearing from him. And at first I was like, I really want to know what he was going to say. Is he going to text? Like, are we going to find out what he was trying to say?
I love you already. Because everyone's like, why didn't you call him back? And I don't want him to.
And I love that because she didn't need to. She didn't want to. That door is closed for her now, and she's moving on. And I think somewhere else you said, you're not focusing on the character's past, you're focusing on their presence. And I loved that she didn't call him back, she didn't text him, she didn't wait for the text.
She didn't give him any power, and that was so important to me. And I get a lot of shit for that one. They're like, I want to know what he was going to say, like, I want to know. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. I mean, maybe it was good, maybe it was bad, but the thing is when you come out of a relationship like that, that's somebody trying to grasp for power back. And it was so important for me for Ada to not give that to him.
Yeah.
I don't even remember his name. Chance.
And then I
hate him.
We all do. And then it's a great moment for Wes too, because there was the perfect opportunity for Wes to, kind of get his back up and be upset about it. Like, are you going to call him back? It was the perfect moment for jealousy, and he didn't. He just was like, what do you need? What are you going to do? And I think that was a great moment for both of those characters.
He handles Ada with such care. And that is something that I'll always be so proud of. And I think all of my male main characters are just big marshmallows. Even Gus. Maybe you've heard of him. I think they're all just big old marshmallows, but I think Wes is the one that wears his marshmallow like most proudly and kind of on the outside. There was going to be no punching involved in Wes's story. There was going to be no frustration. It was just like, again, these two people having a soft place to land and caring for each other in a way that nobody else ever had before.
Yeah, so that kind of takes us to the spinach pie scene. It's so cute that he wanted to do that for her, and then you get that really, adorable dynamic between the three siblings, trying to make this. He's got flour all over the place. Super, super cute. What inspired that specific recipe? Like, is there a personal story that you picked the spinach pie and even included the recipe in the back of the book?
Yeah, so my mom is so pissed that the writer mother is dead. My mom takes it very personally that Stella Ryder unfortunately passed away. She is like, why did you kill the mom? Like, what do you think of me? And I'm like, Sheila, let's take a breath. It's fine. There's just a lot of characters and I have my own plans. It was necessary. And so that was, my mom immigrated from Greece when she was 22. And so that was like my special kind of ode to her. To have that recipe and to have that be something that is meaningful to Ada, and to have Ada, like me, be half Greek, like that was a very specific ode to my mother. And also the relationship with Ada's parents, I think, is extremely culturally prevalent in Greek culture, and so that, like, it made sense for her, it made sense for her story, it made sense for what she'd been through and where she was going, and so it was so important to me. And my mom was so thrilled when I got to show her the final copy that had her recipe, but you should have seen me trying to get this woman to give me measurements. She's like, you just throw this much in, and I'm like, how much? A tablespoon? A cup? Like, what are we doing? But trying to get like a very stubborn Greek woman to give you measurements is something else, and every time we would pause, she'd be like, they have to use good olive oil though, and I'm like, mother. Take it down a notch, but that was the reason for that, and it's special, and it was great to have that in there, and it's great, like, people have made it, and, you know, like, will send me a picture and be like, show your mom, and I'm like, I will, absolutely. If you've ever posted a selfie with my book, I've showed my mom, and she goes, oh, for cute, so she's very happy.
That's awesome. So, kind of on the note of the parents, can we talk for a moment about our beloved Amos Ryder?
My favorite character, yeah.
He's just such a wholesome character who, I think what I love is that he sees things that, you know, our other characters, that they don't see yet, and he lets them work through their own struggles. He'll meddle sometimes, and in a not so subtle but very cute way, but other times he's letting his kids work through their problems, and what kind of drove you to writing his character?
It was really important for me, especially with Emmy. I really wanted to see like a positive father-daughter relationship in a book. That was important for me to represent, because I love my dad so much. If you have read Lost in Lasset, or when you will, I think it will be very obvious how much I love my dad. That's my guy, Lane Bird. What's up, man? Love ya. And so, it was so important to me to have that in there. But Amos is just kind of this amalgamation. Also, my target audience for Friends is like men 50 and older. I play on a tennis league with a bunch of men that are 45 and older, and we are the league champions. And so Amos is and my best, like, my gym buddy that I go to the gym with every day, his name is Daryl. He's 57. And we meet at the gym every day at 11:30 a.m. So he's like my best friend that I have that lives near me. And so it was just so important for me to have like a character that is like all of the men in my life who very positively impacted me. Like, I'm very lucky to have great examples of both men and women in my life, like just a great kind of support system all around, and Amos is my favorite character. People are always like, I can't pick a favorite. I can. And it's Amos Ryder. And I think, like, a lot of times, like, I didn't want Amos to be structured as, like, comedic relief, which I think sometimes, like, characters like him can be. I wanted him to be very strong and very steady, and very just, like, there for his kids. And, like, Gus describes him as, like, a river. And that's exactly what I wanted him to be, to just be there, to be rushing, but to have the opportunity to be, he has fortitude, but he can also be gentle, and so I love him. I love him in Stella's love story. It's been a joy to share pieces of that with you all through the books, and he's the best. And you guys, it's so funny, because like I see Amos as like a father, and then I've got the most wonderful readers who are like, Daddy Amos, and I'm like, okay, yeah, let's roll with it.
It just helps that he's so precious. Like, the things that he chooses to do. So, like, I love his not so subtle meddling. Like, it does have a humor value to it,
yeah.
But then it does also have the, like, I mean, even for Cam, right? Like, there's this, you know, kind of non-traditional relationship there for her and his son, but he's a father figure to her too, and I thought it was so great when he just sends her to girls' night, then somehow he also sends Dusty to girls' night. Like, his his meddling is just, it's one of my favorite things about him because it's done in such a really good way where you know, like, okay, I'm letting him figure it out, but also I'm going to give him a push when it's needed.
Like, I need Cam to know that Dusty is home and he is available. There is literally no one out there who is shipping Cam and Dusty harder than Amos Ryder. Gotta get those two together.
Well, and that does lead me to ask, too, because I feel like maybe he was shipping Ada and Wes from the beginning, too. So was the guest house flooded, or...?
Yeah, in my head it was, actually. Like, I don't think he would put her in a situation that would potentially be uncomfortable unless, like, he had to. And, right, he does his best to, like, comfort her in that moment. But I think, right, like, Wes, like, puts the bag in front of Ada, and Amos is like, light bulb! Something's going on here. And so I think he meddles in a like pretty gentle way there, but I don't think Amos is not the type of person who would be like, actually you have to stay here so I can try to set you up with my kid. I think that's just not his style, but I do think he was like, he probably like looked at the sky and was like, nice one, Stella. Good job. So yeah.
Well, kind of looking at the series overall, I know you said that a lot of the characters are they're kind of derived from people in your life. So coming up with Rebel Blue Ranch and Meadowlark as a whole, just kind of how did you form all of this into what is a 4-book series?
I mean, it all started with Luke Brooks. If you've been around for a while, you know that his back must hurt from carrying the whole thing. Because it literally all started with him. I was watching Friday Night Lights. I just got rejected by another agent for another novel, and I was like, all right, I'm going to try to do this by myself. Saw Tim Riggs, number 33, and I was like, what if that kid washed his hair? What if that kid grew up a little bit? What if he maybe went to therapy, got a savings account? I don't know. Like, became a functioning member of society. What would happen? And that's where, like, Luke Brooks was born. And everything got built around that man. After I was done playing Build-A-Boyfriend with Luke Brooks, I was like, all right, now we got to get some other characters up in here. And it all of Rebel Blue, the series, the order, the characters, the setting, the atmosphere, it all just like came to the forefront of my brain so quickly, and I could not stop thinking about it. I write the way I read, which is kind of obsessively and compulsively, and once it was there, and it was not gonna shut up, so I was like, all right, grown-up Tim Riggins, let's roll. You ready? And so that was really exciting, and I'm so grateful for Luke Brooks, my man, yeah.
So you said Amos Ryder is your favorite character.
Absolutely.
Which relationship on the romantic side and also on the non-romantic side which ones have been your favorites to kind of develop and write?
This one's always harder, because I love to pick favorites, but it's harder to pick favorites on questions like this. Like, I can easily say Amos is the best, because objectively, he's the best. But I think one relationship that I've had a lot of fun with, especially through Lost and Lassoed and Wild and Wrangled, is Dusty and Teddy, who have a very kind of sibling-esque relationship, and they end up interacting in ways that I love, but also end up kind of being more ingrained in each other's lives before, because both of them end up, you know, this isn't a spoiler because it's a romance, y'all, but they both kind of end up in like in a bonus parent role, right? So Gus is with Teddy and Cam is with Dusty, so that has been a really fun relationship to explore. I love those two idiots, because I think like if Dusty had like a female counterpart, it would be Teddy, and if Teddy had a male counterpart, it would be Dusty. I think they're very similar characters in that way, and kind of just being an enigma and just kind of like rolling with the punches. So I've loved that. I also loved kind of noodling on Amos and Ada and Amos and Cam. The man loves a stray. The man loves to take people in, and Amos and Luke Brooks as well. Like that, Amos is the most open-hearted person on the planet, and it's really special to watch him interact with people that aren't his children, but that he treats with just as much care and love, and like his gloves for each of them are different, like the way that he handles them, and I think that has been really special. I also I think that I love the dynamics between the Ryder siblings. I love the dynamic between Emmy and Teddy. It was so fun in Lost and Lassoed to bring them back into the spotlight. It's just, like all of these people, Ada says this in Swift and Saddle, that small towns weave complicated webs, and they do. And it was fun to approach those webs in a way that was hopefully positive for all of them.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite lines from Swift and Saddled was, it's Emmy that says, Luke Brooks is the love of my life, but Teddy is my soulmate. Like, my sister and I both separately picked out that line because we're best friends, and we just thought it was such a beautiful thing. Like, the like familial and friendship relationships that you have in your books, they're as good. Like, you love them as much as you do the romantic relationships. They're just really, really beautiful and really powerful and moving.
Thank you. Clementine Ryder and Theodore Anderson are written in the stars, so I love them very much. I'm very proud of them.
And you also show, too, that even though they're best friends and they love each other and they are each other's ride or dies, they do have moments where they butt heads. And I think that comes out more in the third, Lost and Lasso, they butt heads a little bit more, but like they're best friends, like they know that they're going to fight sometimes, but they still, at the end of the day, they're always going to be each other's ride or die.
Yes.
It's just a beautiful thing to highlight.
Yes, I think, right, it's kind of like knowing you're going to get a happily ever after at the end of a romance. That's why we love them. It doesn't matter what happens to Emmy and Teddy. They know, like, at the end of the day, like, that's their person, and that's who they would call if they were going to drag a dead body across the floor. Like, they couldn't call Luke Brooks, he's a gossip. So, like, Emmy would have to call Teddy because Luke Brooks can't keep a secret. And it's such a joy to explore them more in depth in Done and Dusted and in Lost and Lassoed. And also, I think it's so important to see them from the outside, from Ada's perspective, to just see, like, how kind of, like, these two have just glommed onto each other since they were tiny, 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 and have not let go, but also that their friendship has survived through college and being in different places and then moving back and being in relationships. And this ebb and flow of what friendships look like is so real, and it's especially real for me and like the way that my life looks in comparison to my friends' lives. And so it's important for me to kind of explore that more with those two.
Yeah, and then kind of moving into the future of Rebel Blue Ranch, and then the future for you as well. Like, congratulations on getting a TV adaptation for Rebel Blue. That's super exciting.
Woo!
Are you able to tell us anything about that just yet?
I can tell you that Tish Cyrus's closet is the size of my house, because that's where she takes her Zoom meetings. And so I'm in so Tish Cyrus, Miley Cyrus's mom, it's her production company that optioned the rights for the Rebel Blue Ranch series. So me and Tish had a cutie little, like, meetsy meal. And my office looks like a used bookstore, and not in like a fun way, in like a something could be growing back there sort of way. And then like Tish is in her closet that is literally giant and like immaculately decorated. And she was like, I love interior design. And I was like, me too. Can't you tell? Right now there's not a whole lot of updates there, but Universal TV and the production company are very passionate about the project and very excited about the project. And the reason it happened is because a Universal TV executive read Done and Dusted while it was still indie. So like she's been passionate about this story for a while. Once it went trad, she had like a kind of a way in. So we are all hopeful, but as soon as there are updates that I can share with you all, I will.
Yeah, so that's got to be really, really surreal for you. So you went from indie published, and then got picked up for a book deal. I mean, within months, right? It was a pretty short.
27 days.
27 days, and then now, less than a year after getting traditionally published, you are hopefully getting it turned into a film adaptation. Like, have you been able to wrap your brain around that yet?
Absolutely not. I haven't processed a single thing. But you could tell me that it's June 7th, 2023, and I'd believe you. Because Done and Dusted came out June 6th, and then everything just went woo, and I was like, ah! So I haven't processed a single thing about it. But I'm so, so, so incredibly grateful. It's been the ride of my life, and I feel like I've been in some ways like training for this my entire life, because I feel all of the time that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and that's for somebody who has constantly been chasing the next thing for a long time, it is such a freeing thing to feel just content with where you're at and where you're going.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. So the release of Lost and Lasso is also right around the corner, November 5th.
Have you guys heard of that one? Yeah.
So if you had to pick, I don't know, 3 words to describe the third book, how would you describe it?
Mustache. Yeah, no, that one. I only need one word actually. I'm not kidding. Mustache. Let's see. Maybe like soft. It's another soft book. I'm not describing the mustache. Gus has coarse hair. See, I know him so well. But it's like a soft romance, and I would like, this is not a word, but maybe a phrase, like, I think that it like subverts expectations. And I think that is what I try to do, what I can in books, is that these characters kind of all have assigned roles, but when it comes to their story, they get to step outside of those, right? Luke Brooks gets to be more than just the playboy. Emmy gets to be more than just Meadowlark's sweetheart. Ada gets to be more than just, an abrasive black cat woman. Wes gets to be more than just the middle sibling. Teddy gets to be more than just the flirty best friend. And Gus gets to be more than just the grumpy single dad. So I think that that's what makes their story special, is it doesn't harp on what they are, it harps on who they are for each other. And that's different.
And then you've said in your Q&A on Instagram that the 4th book is the one that you are the most excited about.
Yes.
So what is it about the 4th book that you're able to share now that has you so enthusiastic?
It's a special book for me. Cam and Dusty were the love story that came the most clearly right after Luke and Emmy, so it's been a joy to execute. It's very intentional that they're last because they're a second chance, which is one of my favorite tropes. I was like, maybe we need a little practice before we really try to pull that off. But Lost and Lassoed is an excellent book. Teddy and Gus are very beloved characters. When there are beloved characters that exist and that you all love, sometimes the expectations to meet get really scary. It's a lot of pressure. Gus and Teddy came with a lot of pressure. They came with a lot of me questioning myself. They really kind of took a wrecking ball to my confidence for a little bit. It was a tough book to write just because I was so scared of letting people down. Because again, these are beloved characters. Somebody got to chapter 3 and done and dusted, and I was like, them. And it has never been the same since. So it was really difficult to write them when people knew I was writing them, when they knew that they were coming, and when they've been kind of adopted as like a fan favorite, which wasn't my intention with those two, but I'm so happy that it happened. They deserve it. They're wonderful. But I think what makes Wild and Wrangled special for me is the sense of freedom of writing something that nobody knew was coming. Right, I think it's the closest I can get to the way I felt when I was writing Done and Dusted. It's just a girl in my room, sometimes in my office on my work computer, writing my debut novel when nobody knew who I was and I didn't have a goal for it. I just wanted to write this story. I think Wild and Wrangled is the closest that I've gotten to that feeling again, which makes it really special for me, and I hope makes it special for all of you. And my whole heart is in every single one of these books, so like I loved an aspect of writing each of them. But right, Swift and Saddled came with its own pressure because you had this, all of a sudden people know who you are, and they're like, oh, I want to read that, and I'm like, okay. So like Swift and Saddled came with its own pressure, Lost and Lassoed came with its own pressure, but Wild and Wrangled, pressure was off. No one knew it was coming, so I was just like, woo, this is fun. And I had a great time doing it. And Cam and Dusty are special characters, and it was really special for me to end the series with Cam, who's not a writer sibling, like technically, but to bookend this series with another one that Amos Ryder has just completely taken in, right? Like Luke Brooks in book 1. Cam fills that role for him in Wild and Wrangled, and she's a special character, and I really wanted to end the series with her solidifying her space at Rebel Blue as her home.
And then you've previously stated that you have more than just ideas for where you're gonna go after.
You've really been on my Instagram.
Went through that Q&A, ate it all up. But are you able to share anything about what's next for you after Rebel Blue?
Sure. I would love to. Unfortunately, I suck at keeping secrets, so like I'm ready to spill the beans, but I won't. But my next book that's in the post-Rebel Blue era is actually due before Lost and Lassoed comes out. It's due November 1st, and Lost and Lassoed comes out November 5th. And so you will find me about 2 hours north of Meadowlark, Wyoming, in another town that is maybe less picturesque and a little more spooky. That was fun.
Well, that is super exciting. I think that covers like all the formal questions that I have. If we want to open it up to the audience.
Hi. Hello. All right, so we have time for only a handful of questions. That's fine. All right. No extra fingers included. So, does anybody have just an excellent question? I know it would be difficult because Jack did such an amazing job with in this interview. It was amazing, Jack, seriously. So, anything that Jack did not cover that someone would like to know?
Oh, hi, front row. I guess on the topic of the like film adaptation stuff, have you ever thought about like what your dream cast would be? Who, like if you could have anybody, who it would be, even just for one character?
I mean, so I feel like if it happens, I would want them to be like unknowns, right? Like I want them to be able to just kind of adopt the character and not be known as something else that is now trying to be something else. But I do have, like, you all love to fan cast, which I think is very fun, and so I have a great time with that. But if there was one character that my personal fan cast would be, I think there's one of you out there who's like, what is she going to bring up Twilight? It's now. It's now. I think that Billy Burke from Twilight, who plays Charlie Swan, would make an excellent Amos writer. Yes, give me more of this. Like, give me, like, oh, I love the ooze. I mean, Lewis Pullman is somebody that you guys like to fan cast as Luke Brooks from Top Gun Maverick, my favorite film. And, Twisters just came out, and so everybody sees, like, Glenn Powell in a white t-shirt in the rain, and it's like, Wes, and I'm like, you're so right. I don't really have, like, a Gus, but I think Dusty is kind of this combination of, for me, like, Scott Michael Foster from the hit ABC Family TV show Greek. He's, like an older version of him that's a little bit, like, he posted this picture on his Instagram where he just kind of looks like a little bit dirty, which is what we like at Rebel Blue. And that, or like Jamie Campbell Bower sort of situation. If you're in my broadcast channel, first of all, sorry. Second of all, I love Jamie Campbell Bower. So those are like people that I see you guys talk about and that I kind of see, but I think if it happens, I just want them to be unknowns. Yeah, no pressure for them, just like ready to go. Nothing to meet up to. They just get to come in and do the work.
You're in the aisle.
What kind of work do you do before writing the books, which I guess they're all written now, to kind of like get to know your characters more? Like, what does that process look like?
I mean, I think about them constantly. Like, obsessively, like I cannot get my mind off it. I'm sure my friends are sick of me. I'm sure my family is sick of me. I'm sure everybody is sick of me because all I think about is them. But I also try to, like, I do like basic kind of character profiles, but I'm a big journaler. That's where I think got my start in writing, is so I just like write about them, or I like write a journal like entry from their point of view, from their like day that they had. Not a big day, not the day that Ada rolls up to the ranch, but just a day that Wes has at Rebel Blue. And so I just try to really get in their headspace and just know as much about them as possible. And I'm really lucky that My characters, again, feel so real to me that getting to know them is not a chore. And when it's time for me to write their story, it feels so easy for me to take them where they need to go. So I just love them. I write character-driven novels, so obviously, like, characterization is something I'm passionate about and something I'm, like, actually legally required to be good at for these things to work. So I just spend a lot, inordinate amounts of time with them forever. I still haven't stopped thinking about them. Like, I think what day is it, Sunday? I bet, like, Luke, Brooks, and Emmy are having, like, a nice picnic out in their backyard because they just hung some twinkle lights, like, right? Like, I think about what they could be doing at all times.
So I'm just wondering if you're dead set on 4 books for Rebel Blue, or do you think we'll ever get a Stella and Amos, like, prequel?
Try to say no to that.
It exists. That's what I'm going to say. Put your phones away. The Stella and Amos prequel exists. Like, it exists. It is written. It's not full-length novel word count. 50,000 words, and it will come to you guys at some point. So we will know, like, Rebel Blue is 4 full-length novels. That has always been the plan. I will not change that. But a 5th short novella that is a prequel has also always been the plan. And at first, when I got my 4-book deal, I didn't know if Penguin would want to take it or if they would let me indie publish it. That was going to be the plan for a while, is that they were going to let me indie publish it when I wanted to after all 4 books were out, but they decided that they wanted it, so it's theirs. And